The supplies you will need will include your pencils, a variety of H's and B's, your erasers, this is my kneaded eraser, your pencil sharpener, of course the pad on which you'll be drawing. I have a charcoal pencil over here, and the project also asks that you have your pens for final inking, so be sure you have that as well. So I am choosing this cement swan as my still life. You guys have a variety of objects from which to choose, so pick something interesting. I like the contours of this and I like its shape, so that's why I chose to go with it. Now as I begin drawing it, I want to really pay attention to how the lines and the edges of that swan move. And I also want to pay attention to relationships. So if you look in the upper right hand corner, I'm kind of measuring, what is the width versus the height. I use a technique where I compare, or I hold my pencil out at arm's length. I'm also using my pencil to measure angles. So as I'm drawing my lines in, I can make sure that I draw my angles in there as correctly as possible. And I just want to make sure again that my height and my width are related to each other. I went ahead and started my underline drawing first in my 2H pencil. And now what I'm doing here is I'm kind of going back over. But basically what I did is just like your regular contour, except you're able to look at your paper and you can pick up your pencil. But I just really took my time and just went over those lines very slowly with my pencil. And I just tried to follow the organic shape of the lines and try to follow the movement of those lines I can see. And this swan here has a lot of movement. So you really want to try to capture that as best as possible. And then where you've got some kind of really cool irregular things happening with your line, be sure that you pay attention to how that is, such as I am doing right here with kind of the back feather area. And just really try to get that right. And then again, here's this nice curve around the neck. Really take your time to draw that curve in correctly and really try to match it with your eyes, match your hands with your eyes, and make sure it matches what's actually going on with that contour, with the outline of the swan. Once you have finished with your, there's that sheet of paper also. In order for me to not get my hand smudging my pencil lines, I bring in a sheet of paper and I can rest my hand on top of that. And that's a very good piece of advice I do recommend for all of you. It helps keep your page nice and clean and professional. Once you have finished putting in a really light line, then it's time to go in and make a darker line. I believe for your assignment you're going to be doing it with pen. I'm doing mine with a 9B pencil from Caran d'Ache. It's a gorgeous pencil. I love working with it. And so that creates the outer lines, and then my inner lines I'm going with a 6B, so it's a lighter pencil. So I have some distinction between my outer encompassing outline, my outer encompassing contour, and the detail contours that are on the interior of my object. And so I really also want you to pay attention to not just the outer contour, which creates your silhouette, that's important, but I also want you to make sure that you pay attention to the interior detail contours that you have as well. And you'll notice, if you really pay attention, that there's so many interesting twists and turns that your line will take you, and really pay attention to what it's doing and really just try to mimic that as best as possible. Now, I do not want you doing any shading on this project. However, if you wanted to play around with thick and thin on your line weights to indicate a light direction, a light and shadow direction, you're more welcome to do that. And that's kind of what I'm doing right here with my swan. So you can see the top side is kind of the light side where the light is hitting, and the bottom side, bottom right is kind of where that shadow is hitting. So anywhere along the bottom and on the right side, I'll just thicken that line a little bit more, just to give it some visual interest. And if you want to play around with those kinds of ideas and concepts, playing around with your thick and thin and letting your thick and thin be representative of your light and shadow, I highly recommend that you do that. So I'm kind of wrapping this up here real quick, but hopefully this kind of gives you a good start on this project, and I look forward to seeing what you guys can come up with. So I'm finishing up with the swan right here. This is close to about the amount of detail that I want for you guys to be putting into your own projects. Obviously, I had to speed things up for this demonstration, but I want you really to take the full amount of time given to you guys today to work on this project, really use it for observation and for putting in those details.